Welcome to Rick's Corner. I have Doug Brignole back. You guys always ask for him because he always knows a whole lot about a whole lot.
Or I just BS well.
So he's come over today and he wants to talk about certain subjects about growth and bodybuilding and things that grow and things that don't. And we just had this discussion about genetics. So let's just start this off and we'll go with it.
Well, as you know, I just got back from the World Championship.
Right.
And this was my 40th year of competing. And I placed in the top 10. I was 7th. But, you know, would I have liked to have won? Sure, I would have liked to have won. But I would have needed at least 10, 15 more pounds of muscle on me. Mm-hmm. And I just have never had the genetics that allows me to do that. And so everyone says, you know, genetics. But, you know, when we look at Sergio Oliva, when we look at Dennis Newman, when we look at Matt Mendenhall, we look at the guy, Jeff King, these guys that are really large, and you say, what have they done in terms of training, in terms of what they've taken, in terms of their diet, etc. You can have someone else doing the exact same thing and they won't get that kind of mass.
That's true, by the way. Have you seen Jeff King lately?
No.
I did. I had a picture of him.
Oh, did you? I know he's doing like physical therapy or something.
He's probably like 170.
Yeah, right.
I mean, it's like he never worked out a day in his life.
Wow. He won't even talk about it, by the way. He doesn't post anything.
No, I tried to reach him. He wouldn't even acknowledge me.
Wow.
Yeah, he doesn't look like anything ever happened. But
what a shame.
It is.
What a shame.
But there are guys like that. You go down to Venice and see these big guys walking around like elephants, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of that is genetics. They just look at a weight and they grow.
You know, there was an article in the New York Times, LA Times on Phil Heath recently. Mm-hmm. And he was talking about eating 5 to 6 pounds of meat in a day. Now, let me just tell you something. There's 450 grams of protein in 1 pound of meat. Mm-hmm. What are you going to do with 2,000 grams of protein in your body?
Your body's it's not going to utilize it.
You're not going to utilize it. It's going to majorly stress out your digestive system and your kidneys.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't believe it's true. I'm sorry. I think it's a lie.
I don't think it's true at all because a lot of the things in the magazines, for example, when Weeder used to show pictures of Franco and these guys were lifting all these weights, they'd load the T-bar up with about 12 plates. You do one rep and pull it up, and then that would be the shot.
Yeah, right.
So people would read that and say, oh, look how much weight he uses all the time.
As if they're doing 12 reps with it.
But he never did.
Yeah, right,
no one ever did that.
Anyway, the point is that you look at someone like Phil Heath. Well, we've seen those pictures of Phil Heath playing basketball before he even lifted weights. He was bigger than I am right now, right? So we produce this thing called myostatin, which is a muscle inhibitor. From an evolutionary standpoint, you know, this was nature's way of preventing us from getting so much muscle that then we had to find enough nutrients to feed it.
Right.
And if we couldn't find the nutrients to feed it, we would die. In other words, it would reduce our chance of survival. So we have anabolic properties that are natural in our body. We have, you know, things that suppress the anabolic properties in our body. And I'm just convinced that that's really what's going on. At least maybe for me, maybe there's something else going on. I might be producing more myostatin than the next guy. And someone like Sergio Oliva, who didn't have any advanced training techniques, you know, and, you know, the drug regime that existed back then was probably not as good. You know, how does a guy like that get so big? Well, you know, he probably had very little myostatin being produced.
Well, how do you know? Can you test yourself to see?
Well, that's a good question. I'm doing some research on it right now, and I'll find out. You know, they say that Flex Wheeler and that Paul Dillette were myostatin inhibited, at least to a degree. Now, how would they know that unless there was a test?
There had to be a test.
So there must be some way of testing it. And of course, from a bodybuilding supplement standpoint, this has been the holy grail. Everyone's wondering, how can we suppress this myostatin, right? In fact, if you could figure this out, you might not even need steroids, right? You could actually say, well, why don't we just prevent the reduction of muscle and let it grow without having to boost the other side?
Like you said, we've seen pictures of animals that have done it too.
Yeah, there's been some pictures of bulls and pictures of, and by the way, this is natural. They're not chemically suppressed. This is a natural
I know that
anomaly where these guys just don't produce the amount of myostatin, and they get like crazy muscular, and their diets aren't any different, and they don't exercise any more than the next animal does.
Well, everybody seems to think that steroids is the answer. They say, and I'm not against steroids. I don't ever badmouth anything, but they'll say, well, they're big because of steroids, and that's not always the case.
I've seen guys take truckloads of steroids and not get big.
I have too.
And I've seen guys take little or no steroids. There are guys that are already, you know, bench pressing 400 pounds natural.
Right.
How does that happen?
Well,
right.
when I was training, I started training back in 1961. Maybe.
Yeah.
I worked out at a YMCA,
yeah.
and the weights were bent and they were broken. They didn't, you know, they had nothing.
Yeah.
But I benched 300 there, and I never even knew what a drug was.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
For those guys that are naturally strong or naturally big, you should just count your blessings rather than thinking you're so smart or whatever.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, doesn't mean you aren't. It just means that that's not the reason why you're muscular or strong, right? There are people that have tried to figure this thing out, and they're very scientific, they know what they're doing, and they train just as hard.
Oh yeah,
but they don't get the result because there's some other biochemistry thing going on that they can't quite control or maybe not even identify.
I've seen some kids in the gym, I just call them kids, they're probably in their 20s or 30s, and they're benching 300 and they're working out really hard and they've got stick bodies, they have no muscle at all.
Right.
I don't know where they got the strength from, but then nothing's going on there at all.
Well, there's no correlation between how big you are and how strong you are.
There is no correlation to it, but if you're going to be a heavy, let's just say you're going to do a powerlifting, you do heavy squats, benches, and deadlifts, you're going to gain muscle size. You're going to get thick.
Well, you're going to improve.
You're going to improve. Yeah. These guys never improve. Now, I want to get on the subject of one thing because we're talking about this. When I came out of the hospital, my weight had dropped to 196, and my testosterone dropped to 193. That's very low.
Yeah, of course.
You don't get a hard on, you get what they call a soft off. Basically.
The complete opposite.
Yeah, complete opposite. But the thing is that I needed to do something to get back to my health, and I asked my cardiologist, I said, I want to go back on testosterone. He says, I think you should do one cc a week and bring it back up again. So I said, okay. So I did 200 milligrams a week, and I could see my starting to fill out little by little, but that's muscle memory too.
Right.
But I still wasn't where I was.
Yeah.
You know, I was like 230 before, and I don't want to be 230. Today I was 216, which is a big jump from last week. But what I did introduce to what I'm taking, and I get this from Wellness where we all go, and I got the IGF-1 LR3, which is a peptide.
Okay.
It's the next step up from GH, and it has literally no side effects. But what it does is it splits the muscle cell rather than enlarges it from 1 to 2, and then 2 to 4. And so whatever you gain from the IGF muscle cell wise, you retain because it's permanent because they're there. You might gain 1 or 2 pounds a week or every 2 weeks. So I put on quite a bit, maybe 14 pounds in the past.
Without increasing your testosterone level too much.
I just increased it where it was normal.
Yeah, or the high end of normal, Yeah,
like 500 maybe, 400, 500, better than 193.
Yeah.
So between that and the IGF, I looked in the mirror and I could see my shirts are tighter and I'm looking like this. I said, wow, it's coming back at the age of 72, which is hard to do.
Right.
Because it's hard to hold muscle mass at my age.
You know, there are supplement companies that are pretending to have a myostatin inhibitor.
You said.
And they do that obviously because there's a market for it. And by the way, you can sell, let's say, 1 million bottles of this thing that's worthless. And if no one buys a second bottle, you've made a lot of money. In other words, if everyone discovers that it didn't work, okay, fine.
No, let me tell you what correlates to that. When I came out with a design years ago for a tank top and a logo, I sold a ton of them. They came in from Pakistan and knocked me off and made them themselves, changed the name by 1 letter, and they sold everything. I just said, I'm done. I'm not dealing with this anymore. Because that's what happens.
Right.
A one-time through to sell it, and they're happy.
Right, exactly.
So the myostatin is, I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's an interesting subject. I mean, I don't know if it'll ever be resolved, but it was just frustrating for me because I know that I worked my butt off and to get on an international stage and still not have enough mass.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Yeah, exactly. So, but, I did the best I could. I wanted to complete 40 years since the time I started competing. I was in the top 10. I placed 7th.
Yeah.
So, I did what I wanted to do, and it is what it is. I'm grateful that I had, in the 80s, it was less competitive. There was less big guys.
It's a different world, but I had
I wouldn't have won Mr. California, Mr. America, Mr. Universe if they looked like they do today.
No, I know that. I had Tony Pearson on last week and Robbie a while back, and both the guys are in tremendous shape.
Yeah.
They're ripped and muscular and no body fat at all. But they don't hold the size they did 20 years ago.
Yeah, right, of course.
And it's just not there.
By the way, the men's fitness division, these guys are as muscular as Frank Zane used to be.
Oh, they look great.
These guys, by yesterday's definition, are bodybuilders.
I love that division. I think it's so good.
Yeah.
It's so popular and nice to see all these young guys today working out.
And they look magnificent. They've got enough mass. They're ripped.
Yeah. They know what they're doing. They're doing well. Isn't that nice to see that? Because years ago when we were bodybuilding back, I just wrote an article on this in Huffington Post. We were freaks. My friends in Bakersfield growing up looked at me and said, bodybuilder, that's a freak. Why do you want to do that?
It's a weird thing,
It's a weird thing. You're weird. And to become a pro wrestler, you're double weird, so we don't want to hang out with you.
No, it's boomed, right? The industry is boomed.
Yeah, it's certainly
now you're an anomaly if you don't exercise, and if you don't have any muscle, you're the anomaly now.
Exactly. Let's talk about your book for a minute.
Okay, great. My book, The Physics of Fitness, has been out now for several months. It's 522 pages. It talks about all kinds of really, really interesting things about the mechanics of the body that explain things that you probably have felt in the gym, but like if you do leg raises and your lower back hurts, it explains why your lower back hurts, because it's mostly hip flexors and they're pulling on the front part of your spine.
Right.
And now, I just wrote about this, which is, people say, so are you saying I should never do leg raises? Yes, you should never do leg raises for abs. So then what about the hip flexors? Don't they need exercise? They do, but the spinal posture, the spinal position for hip flexors is best to be arched. The position for abs is curved.
Yes.
It's opposite, right?
So what do you do for abs?
So I lie down on the ground and I connect my ankles to a pair of cables and I elevate my pelvis a little bit so my back is arched, and then I do alternate bent knee hip flexion.
Oh, so you're pulling.
Yeah, so I'm pulling, and because my spine is arched, there's no conflict of interest.
Yeah, that makes sense.
If you try to do that while flexing the abs, then you have a conflict of interest. You don't do either one very well.
The other thing about the abs is you don't have to train them that hard to get abs. You got to diet.
Yeah, you cannot spot reduce, and people that
can't
do
spot
abs
reduce.
are mostly trying to get ripped.
Well, I've talked about this before, and we have together. I see people working abs. They're doing 200, 300 reps, and then side bends with dumbbells, right?
Yeah, right.
Which I
heavy dumbbells.
Yes, which you do not want to do.
right.
You're going to get those big obliques. You'll always be fat. But it's a vicious circle because when you work abs hard and you're using weight, and you're using a lot of weight, they get thicker and thicker and thicker, and you keep saying to yourself, I'm working out, my stomach's getting bigger, I guess I have to work out harder.
Yeah,
right? And the harder you go, the bigger you get, and your pants get tight, and you say, what the hell, am I pregnant?
Some of you have asked me how to do a vacuum.
Right.
Where you suck the stomach in,
Yes.
like Frank Zane used to. And so I'll tell you how to do it in just a minute, but I also want to tell you that a lot of today's trainers tell their clients to suck their stomach in when they're doing ab crunches.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can tell you right now, that's an impossibility.
You can't do it.
Right? I mean, if you, those of you who bodybuild, get in front of a mirror, do your overhead ab shot where you're flexing your abs, and then at the same time that the abs are still flexed, suck it in.
Right.
You can't. You have to release the contraction,
Right.
arch the back, and then suck it in.
But
Right? So they're opposite.
How many of the top bodybuilders today can do a vacuum? It's not even required anymore.
Well, it's definitely not required.
Yeah.
In fact, it's rarely seen.
Yeah.
It's rare. In my routine that I did in Ireland and also in Pennsylvania, starts off with first a vacuum and then a lat spread.
I don't want to stay on the subject, but you know who did that? I did a little thing on it from the 50s. Was Bruce Randall. Remember Bruce
That
Randall?
name sounds familiar, but I can't see
he
the
was
face.
400 pounds, very good looking guy. 400 pounds, and he got down to 198 to compete. He was massive, just massive, and he could do a vacuum.
Yeah.
He was literally on the Gary Moore Groucho Marx show.
Yeah.
And I ran a show about him. He passed away years ago, but he had gone up to 400 and then he dropped to 198. It was incredible. Bruce Randall, look him up, Google him. He's an interesting guy, and he did the vacuum.
Oh.
Even after all that weight.
Yeah, right. Well, the way to train yourself to do a vacuum, and by the way, the vacuum is produced by the transverse abdominis. Right, so what's interesting is like when I do a vacuum, I can actually feel the contraction in my lower back. In other words, it's actually pulling the front towards the back, right? And it makes sense, right? If this is going that way, if this is going in,
right,
it must be being pulled from the back.
Yeah, makes sense.
How else could you do it? Nothing's pushing from the front. Right? So that proves again that you cannot vacuum while simultaneously going the other direction. Right? But what you do is you lie down flat on your back, you arch your back, you exhale your air. We got a visitor. You exhale all your air, and then you just, it doesn't happen all of a sudden. So you have to gradually try it. And the more you try it, the more those muscles gain a kinesthetic ability, an ability to sense. So I'll do a vacuum now. I'm not completely shaved, but.
Do it for her, because she likes this kind of stuff.
What you do is you exhale.
Right. Oh my God, yes. Let it all out. That's a good vacuum. By the way, could you do my carpet? I have some dust on them.
Yeah, and what I started doing for this last contest is I would actually do the vacuum and then I would pulsate, and you can actually feel and move different parts. Right.
Well, I've seen bodybuilders way back would do that. And they rotate their abs underneath it like it would just be moving and moving and moving. They had muscle control over it.
Right. And it's good to do that because the transverse abdominis helps with breathing. It helps with your spinal, comfort and your balance and all that. Same with hip flexors, by the way. Hip flexors are important for spinal comfort and spinal balance. You've got muscles that are pulling and from one side and the other. So it's not right to eliminate leg raises, but don't combine them with abs.
I got you.
Yeah.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
I have one more thing to say.
Okay. We didn't finish the book. Did we finish the book? Anyway, that's the kind of thing that's in the book.
Yeah.
$50.
Yep.
PayPal, dbfitness@aol.com, which is my email, but it's also the name of my PayPal account. $50 US. And then as soon as payment appears, I'll just email you the download link.
Well, I wanted to say, because there's Christmas is coming up, and this is a good gift for Christmas.
Yeah.
buy somebody this book because somebody will really appreciate it. It's well worth it.
I had an email that just came in. The guy said, on a scale of 1 to 10, this is an 11.
Oh, I've had people email me, tell me the book's worth $100.
Yeah. Well, one guy sent me 2 payments.
Yeah.
He paid me $50 and he sent me another one. He goes, it's worth at least twice that.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah.
No, it's true. It's true. And
It's
then,
very different. It's nothing like anything that's up on the market right now.
I know that. I know that. The other thing you might want to order is, I sell the logo for Gold's Gym, and I autograph it, and I sign it, and I make it for you.
I love that.
And each one is individual and 8x10, ready to frame. It's going to be a collector's item because it's a piece of bodybuilding history.
Right.
And I did it. And so
and it's a one of a kind. Each one's a one of a kind.
Each one's a one of a kind. None of them match exactly.
Yeah, right.
Depends on my mood that day.
Yeah, right.
But I've sold a lot of them, and it's $75 plus $5 shipping, and I'll get it out right away. But you want to order now for Christmas, and make sure you tell me who to autograph it to, so that we don't send it to the wrong person.
Yeah. Tell us again how you. You said once they gave me this instruction to do the logo. What was that instruction?
Oh, Ken Waller and Arnold and the guys were at the gym, and they knew I had done designs for T-shirts in Bakersfield.
Yeah.
And we were at Zucchi's Deli, and they said we want to.
And they were working for Joe Gold.
Yeah. They said we want to do a T-shirt for the gym, and the only one that had was Vince's Gym, and all he had it says Vince's Gym.
Yeah, right.
So I said, what do you want? And they said, let's draw something like a Mr. Clean.
The Mr. Clean guy. That's right.
And Ken sent me a picture of Mr. Clean bottle. And I said, well, that could be me. I want to shave my head anyway.
Yeah.
And I drew it on a napkin in the deli, and we took it to Ace Trophy on Rose in Venice, and he printed up a few dozen shirts. We sold them out the first day. They ordered another gross.
Yeah.
And then they went on from there, and then became
and now it's, how many Gold's Gyms are there in the world?
It's the largest iconic
Thousands
in the world. Yeah. Who would have known, right?
Yeah, right. Joe Gold never would have guessed it.
No, and you know what else that Joe Gold gave me? He gave me his table saw. He built all this equipment.
Oh, I saw you post that.
And I have that right out there in my carport. Same saw.
Yeah, right.
I should sell it.
Yeah.
It's an antique.
Yeah, right.
And so am I. But the history of the logo, and if you could have one, I've had people order for the gyms and put them on the wall, and I sign it. It's something that in time will mean a lot to somebody.
Yeah, that's right. And I love that story.
That's a good story.
I love that story.
Well, thank you guys for watching Rick's Corner.
It's been a pleasure being here.
And we'll see you next time. Okay. And then until then, have a good holiday.
Drasin.com. He is the equalizer, baby. See you next time.